Okay.
Okay. I won't go through that whole spiel again, but you can probably like clip it together or just upload 2
Right.
videos and they'll catch the first section. But we really didn't get into anything, so not a big deal if you missed that. So again, we're going to start with the basic rules, just a few things that you'll encounter in your day-to-day play. I'm going to try to keep this class relatively short. Sometimes I tend to talk a little much and drag it out too long, so try to keep it right around 45 minutes to an hour for you. First rules we're going to get into is out of bounds. So for those of you who don't know, there are stakes on the course, and those signify either red stakes, which are water hazards, or you have the white stakes, which are out of bounds. So out of bounds stakes are white. So if you're out playing on the course, a good example is number 7. There's white stakes there off to the left. The road right here is also out of bounds. So if you're teeing off on number 1, there are no white stakes there, but on the back of the scorecard, it does say that the local roads within the property are out of bounds. Okay, so although there's not white stakes there, it is identified on the back of the scorecard. So white stakes and then roads are usually out of bounds. All right. Water hazards are red stakes. Now, it's not always just ponds and lakes and stuff like that. It is marsh area, woodland, that type of thing. Anything that's marked with a red stake or spray painted with red, okay? Now, when it comes to out of bounds and water hazard, red stake hazards, there are certain rules that apply when you do hit it in those areas. So for example, the white stake out of bounds area, if you hit it out of bounds, you have a couple different options. First is you can re-tee from that area, taking a 2-stroke penalty. So white stake out of bounds is 2 strokes, 2 penalty strokes, okay? The best way I try to explain to people how to play this rule is when you hit it out of bounds, you will have to go back to the tee and hit again, okay? So say you make a 4 on that hole on your second ball that you re-teed, okay? So you go back to the tee box after you hit it out of bounds, or if you see it go out of bounds, you just re-tee. And you say you're hitting a provisional. Provisional is important because it's identifying that that second ball is a provisionary ball that if your first one happened to bounce back in play and you don't know, you're not deemed to have to play that second ball, okay? So anytime you feel like you hit one out of bounds, whether you think you did or not, let your group know that you're hitting a provisional. That way, if you happen to find it in bounds, you can then play that ball, okay? If it's out of bounds, then you just play your provisional, okay? So that would be the first way that you would take that 2-stroke penalty is you hit it out of bounds, you re-tee, okay? You re-tee with your provisional ball. You go up there, you find your first ball is out of bounds. So you're now playing that second ball. On that second ball, you hit 1 into the fairway, you hit 2 on the green, you missed the 3rd putt, and then you made the second putt, or the second putt, which would be your 4th shot. So you made a 4 on that hole, and you hit it out of bounds, okay? Because it's a 2-stroke penalty, just add 2 strokes to that score. That's the easiest way I find that you can do it. Now, you can do it the other way, which would mean that you hit 1 out of bounds, you take a penalty for stroke and distance, just 2 strokes, so then you'd be hitting 3 off that tee, okay? So either way you can do it. It's completely up to you, but it is a 2-stroke penalty when you hit it out of bounds, okay?
And let me clarify, that's just off your tee shot.
Generally, anytime you go out of bounds, okay, don't worry about the strokes, in my opinion, for the penalty. I add the 2 strokes at the end when I finish the hole. It's the easiest way to do it. That way you're not sitting there thinking, oh, okay, well, I hit 1 out of bounds, hit 2, hit 3, hit 4, that sort of thing. So actually, I think I did the math wrong there. You hit 1 out of bounds, 2, 3, so you'd be hitting 4, yeah. But so that's why it's easier to do it, because even, you're hitting your 4th shot, and your 4th shot out of bounds. Well, then you're like, okay, 5, 6, 7. So it just becomes a little confusing. So I like to just say, hey, just play your ball. You hit it out of bounds. Don't worry about the strokes. Re-tee. Make your score. When you finish making your score, add 2 strokes to the end of it. I find that that's personally the easiest way to do it. Now, you can count it as you play. That's fine too. Completely up to you. But that's, in my opinion, the easier way. When it comes to So I said there's two options with the white out of bounds. Here we have a local rule, which I'm going to get into a little bit later, and I'll explain that. But we'll play rule E-5, okay? So that means that you can then drop your ball in the fairway from the nearest point of where it exited the out of bounds. And again, I'm going to get into this a little bit later, so I'm not going to talk too much in detail about it, but those are your two options. You either re-tee, take the two-stroke penalty, or you take your nearest point of relief in the closest known area from where it went out of bounds and still take your two-stroke penalty. So essentially, you don't have to hit that tee shot, okay? So you hit it once, it's forcing you to not have to hit it again, essentially. So it helps speed up pace of play. Okay, so let's get into the red stake water hazard area. This rule has 5 different options that you can take, okay, to get relief from a red staked area. So you would then, I'm going to give you an example here. So we got our red stake here. Actually, I got the whiteboard, so I brought it. All right, so I'm going to just make a quick little drawing here and just give you an idea of a layout of a hole so you have a better understanding of how this would work. I'm going to use number 6 as an example. So you got your green over here. Okay, you got the fairway that kind of comes off this way and then rounds back out. And this is all water. Water, red stake area. Okay, so you got your water here, you got your fairway here, you got some bunkers out here in the middle, 3 of them, the fairway continues. Okay, so right here would be your water hazard. There's a little bit of rough right here. All right, so if you hit your golf ball from right here, and you're hitting it to the pin, which is here, okay, so you got the flag there. You hit your golf ball and it crosses the water here and it doesn't quite make it to the other side and it comes up short in the water, okay? So you have 5 options that you can take, okay? Option 1, which is usually the most common option, is you take 2 club lengths from the red staked area from where it crossed, okay? So the way you want to think of water hazard with red stakes, that red stake area goes straight up as far as it can go, okay? That's kind of the way you want to look at it. So it's wherever you crossed into the water, not where it landed, it's where it crossed into the water, okay? So it crosses right here at this point, okay? So from that point right there, there's either a red stake or there's red spray paint. Usually when we have tournaments, we use red spray paint to make it a little bit more defined, okay? So you would take 2 club lengths from that spot no near to the hole, okay? So if you take your 2 club lengths and you go this way, you cannot do that because it's nearer to the hole, okay? You have to at least create an angle here, and anywhere on this angle you can drop, okay? 2 club lengths. So you'll simply take a club, and generally, I like to take my longest club in the bag because it's going to give you the most relief. So if this is my red staked area right here, okay, you would first get your stance, okay, because you have to take stance and club relief completely from the hazard. So if I'm a right-handed golfer, I'm going to put my club head down first next to the red hazard. I will go ahead and lay my club down. That's 1 club length. You put a tee in the ground here, and then you drag it out this way, and you take another club length, okay? And then from there, you will put another tee. When you drop, if you drop your ball, let me get a golf ball here so you can get a good idea. When you drop, if you drop your golf ball, and your golf ball happens to go this way, can I play that ball?
No.
Why not?
It's
Correct. It's outside of that 2 club length. So when I drop that ball, mind you, when we drop golf balls now, it's no longer from your shoulder height. It's now from your knee height. Drop the golf ball from knee height, ball's in play, okay? From there, you have to go ahead and play it. Now there are some situations where there's side hills. So if you drop this ball and it rolls down into the hazard, you have to drop it again. If it rolls into the hazard a second time, after that second time, you are then allowed to place the golf ball, okay? So this is the 2 club length rule. You're taking 2 club lengths from the water hazard, drop the ball at knee height, the ball's in play. Okay? Any questions on the 2 club length rule?
Well, if it falls back in, do you have to take extra strokes for that, or no?
Nope,
You
no,
just get
there's
to
no
try it.
penalty for it rolling back in. That's a good question. You can go ahead and just grab it and then just re-drop. Okay? So that's the 2 club length rule there. Now, the next one, your next option, would be straight back on the line from crossing point of the hazard and the hole. So, if you were to hit this shot in the water, your second option is you can line up where you crossed and the flag. And you can then go back as far as you want on that line to get into the fairway if you would like. Okay? You could go 200 yards back, 300 yards back, it doesn't matter. As long as you're lining up the flag with where your golf ball crossed the hazard, you can go straight back on that line. Okay? So that would be your second option. Any questions on that one? Okay. The third option would be to play it as it lies. So there are some situations where it's not all just water, it's marshland. If you happen to walk in there and you find your golf ball, you're more than capable of playing it out if the lie is able to get out of the hazard, okay? You have that option to go ahead and play that shot in order to get it out of the hazard and on the green without taking a penalty shot. So any red staked area is 1 penalty shot, okay? The fourth option is a lot of times there are drop zones. On number 5, if you hit it in the hazard to the left, there's a drop zone there. Okay, number 16, you hit it in the water, because I know 16 is tough for a lot of people to get over that water. There's a drop zone behind the green. Still a 1-stroke penalty, okay? So that would be your fourth option. Your fifth option is you can always hit it from the place that you just hit it from. Okay? So if I hit it from right here, and I hit it in the water, I can take a 1-stroke penalty and say, I'm going to try that shot again. I feel like I'm at a good yardage. I like this club. I just made a bad swing. I'm going to drop it again. Knee height. Ball's in play. You can then hit it from there. Okay? Any questions on that? Awesome. Okay. So that's your red stake penalty area. The next one is we're going to get into an unplayable lie. Okay? So this is kind of common, especially when it rains and you go out and play. Anytime it rains, you tend to get these puddles in the fairway if it just sits there. If you hit a golf ball and it rolls into this puddle that's in the middle of the fairway, do you have to play it?
It's a free drop.
It's a free drop. Just read the notes. It is a free drop. It is deemed casual water. Okay? So if you were on a cart path, a little puddle, somewhere in the fairway, you get, or anywhere for that matter, doesn't have to be in the fairway, you get free relief from that spot. There's no penalty. Go ahead and pull your ball off that cart path or pull it out of the water. Take 1 club length, no nearer to the hole, drop at knee height. Okay? You'll find that when it comes to the rulings, there are very specific ways that you're required to take relief. So you'll hear me a lot say 1 club length, no near to the hole, drop knee height. Okay, that happens quite a bit. All right. What are some other ones? Let's see. Embedded ball, yes. So embedded balls. So as long as you don't hit it in a red staked hazard area, okay? If you hit it in the fairway and your ball hits right in the fairway and it plugs right into the ground, okay? You don't have to play that. It's the same rule as if you were going to casual water. It's called a plugged lie. You pick up your golf ball, you are allowed to clean it, okay? Take 1 club length relief, drop at knee height, no near to the hole, okay? That is always one of the most important things. You can never go closer to the hole because it's technically giving you an advantage. Okay, so whenever you take relief, always make sure you're not going closer to the hole. And then we have immovable obstructions and movable obstructions, okay? So those green electrical boxes that are out there on the course, if you hit a golf ball and you're right behind it and your stance or swing is impeding with that, you do get free relief from that. Now, it's not line of sight, okay? So if that green electrical box is 10 feet from me and my ball's right behind it, I don't get relief from that. I have to find a way to hit it around it, okay? But if my club is going to extend and hit it, or my stance or my body is close enough to it where it's impeding with my swing, you get free relief from that. One club length, no near to the hole, okay? Yes?
Yesterday we played, and I want to say it was hole 14, and there was no sod and a long strip all the way across.
Yes.
That's where the ball got embedded.
Yes. Yes, you do get free relief from any sodded areas, any ground under repair. So a lot of times we'll use paint and we'll spray paint an area that's maybe dead grass or grass that we're working on the course. Those areas are generally marked and you do get free relief for those as well. Yes, very, very good question there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's stupid, but.
No, it's okay. No problem.
We were playing yesterday and Finn stole my ball.
Yes. Yes.
That was us.
You
They wouldn't give it back.
They would, yeah.
in most cases you're going to replace your ball. Yeah, no penalty. You just
I
replace.
don't even know where it went, because he, like, whatever, and he grabbed
chased it.
and he-
Anytime you're unsure, you're playing, if you're playing by yourself, it doesn't matter. But
Right.
generally you're playing with other people.
Yeah.
Anytime you're unsure, utilize your group and say, hey, look, where do you guys think that my ball landed?
Okay.
And most of the time the group is going to agree on a general area, and then you just drop from knee height there. Okay? That is a good one too. Finn does like to take those golf balls quite a bit.
Justin?
Yes.
If your ball hits cart path sign, but lands under cart path sign.
Yes.
Do you move the cart path sign, or do you take a club length?
So that would be, so her question is, if your golf ball rolls out and we have those card signs with the stakes, if your golf ball rolls underneath it, what do you do at that point? You can, so that would be considered a movable obstruction because you can move it. So you would just take the cart sign out and just move it off to the side, hit your shot, and then replace it when you're done. Yeah. There's a lot of times you play courses and they have stakes in the ground at maybe like 100, 150 yards, and maybe 200. Some places have these big stakes. Sometimes your ball's right next to it and it's in your way. A lot of times those will pull right out of the ground. You can lay them down, hit your shot, and then put it back. Yep. All right. Same thing with, actually wrote cart signs on here, but same thing with the rakes. Rakes are the same thing. Those are movable obstructions. If a rake is in your way or impeding with your stance or swing, you can move the rakes. Same thing with rocks. Rocks are the same thing as well. So anytime you have a rock, you can kind of move that and throw that away. The ruling in bunkers used to be that if you had pebbles or pine cones, you could not move those from the bunker. Now you actually can. So that is allowed. If you have big old pebble there or like a big old pine cone, you can grab that and take that out. Now just be careful that it doesn't move your ball, okay? That's the key there. All right, so we're gonna get into unplayable lie. What to do when you have an unplayable lie. So say for example, you hit a shot on number 1. There's that big old tree right there off to the left, okay? You hit your ball and it rolls right up in between the roots of that tree and it's stuck right into the bottom of that tree. And you look at it and you're like, I can't do anything. I can't advance it, I can't hit it backwards, I can't hit it sideways, I can't get a club on it to hit it anywhere. So at that point, you would have to take an unplayable lie and incur a 1-stroke penalty, okay? Kind of similar to a hazard. You have 3 options. You can take 1 club length. So you can take stroke and distance penalty and re-hit from where you were. You can take 1 club length from that spot, just like I instructed earlier. You kind of take 1 club length, no near to the hole, drop at knee height. Or you can go straight back on the line from the pin and where your ball lies, okay? So if you have that sort of issue occur, those are your 3 options with that, okay? Any other questions on any of those rules there? Any rules questions in general? All right, good. All right, we're gonna keep moving. So I wanna differentiate the difference between a local rule and the USGA ruling, okay? So the USGA is the United States Golf Association. They come up with the rules that we all play by. Local rules are rules that are deemed specifically for the golf course you are playing. So one of our local rules is that rule E-5 that I was talking about earlier. So that rule is set in place to help speed up pace of play, and so you don't have to hit that second tee shot, or generally it's a tee shot, but there are times where you might hit it out of bounds from a fairway or somewhere near the green. But I'm going to use number 1 as an example. So number 1 is I'll draw this one out for you. It's a slight dogleg left. Okay, and the out of bounds is the road on the right. So we're gonna have our green right over here, and then you have the fairway that kind of comes this way and then back down towards the tee box here. So you're teeing off in this general area, and you got the road that runs this way. Okay? So that's our road there. So if you hit a tee shot and you hit it from the right and it slices off to the right and it goes out of bounds right here. Okay? That's where you hit your ball and it went out of bounds. Now you can re-tee and take the 2-stroke penalty, as I explained earlier, or you can play rule E-5. The thing with E-5 though is wherever you cross the out of bounds line, you need to make sure that you're not going closer to the hole. So if I'm here and I hit it out of bounds, so you have to find the nearest closely mown area, which is generally the fairway. You get 1 club length from there and then you drop it in the fairway, okay? You're still taking that 2-stroke penalty, but it's not forcing you to have to hit your tee shot again, okay? So when you do that, if I were to take this directly here and take my 1 club length and drop right here, can I do that? Why not? Exactly, you're closer to the hole, okay? So in this case, you may be better off hitting that second tee shot because it may put you somewhere over here or closer than what you would be as if you dropped from the out of bounds, okay? So what you would have to do is, there's 2 things. If you have a rangefinder, you can always shoot the yardage from here to the pin and then find a spot somewhere around in here where you have to go backwards, so you're not close to the hole, somewhere around that same distance. It can't be closer, okay? That's the easiest way to do it, is if you have a rangefinder. If you don't have a rangefinder, again, you check with your group. You speak with them, you say, hey, I think it went out of bounds here, do you guys agree? Yes, we all agree, we think we went out of bounds this general area. Okay, well, where do you think is the closest area that I can drop in the fairway that's not near to the hole? And generally, you'll all agree on some sort of area and say, yeah, I think if you go back this way, take 1 club length from there, that's probably pretty close to as far away as you were when you crossed the out of bounds line. Okay, so again, rely on your playing competitors or your partners to kind of help you out in those situations. Okay, any questions on that E-5 rule? No? Okay, good. I already covered the out of bounds drop, so we're going to get into the free relief from sprinkler head. So this is also a local rule, okay? So these local rules you cannot use anywhere else at any other golf course unless they have them, okay? It has to be here only. These are our specific rules for our facility, okay? So we're going to use this right here as the green for an example, the Black Peninsula Square. This is going to be a green here. Okay, now I hit my golf ball, and my golf ball rolls and lands right here. And I want to putt it, because it's an easy putt to this flag right here. Okay, so if I want to putt this, I can't because that sprinkler head right there is in my way. Okay, so you can get free relief from that sprinkler head if it's impeding your stance, if it's impeding your swing, or line of sight. Okay, now the line of sight one's tricky because I get a lot of people who are like, oh, well, I'm 50 yards out and I want to land it right there and it's in my way. All right, well, go ahead, line of sight. If you feel like you're going to land it right there, you feel like it's in your way, if you feel you're a good enough player that you might hit something that's the size of a golf hole, then you go ahead and you take relief from it if you feel like it's going to impede on your shot. Okay, if you're 200 yards away and you feel like it's going to impede on your shot, sure, take your one club length and you can go ahead and move it. Now, when it gets to being that kind of distance, it's almost like your playing competitors might be like, wait a minute, I don't think you're hitting that from 200 yards out. Like, that shouldn't really be a concern. And most of the time, that's not the situations you run into. It's generally within 10, 15 yards where you're trying to hit a chip shot or you're trying to hit a putt, and it's right there in your way. But there is no ruling on line of sight. Yeah, you can go back as far as you want, and if you feel like it's in your line of sight in relation to the pin, then you can get relief from it. But that doesn't happen very often. Again, it's usually when you're chipping or putting around the green and you have that spot right there that's in your way. Okay, so here we get relief from that. Other places you do not. So if you're sitting right here at Baywood Greens and you got a big old sprinkler right there, well, you either got to putt around it or you got to try to chip over it, one or the other. Okay, so that's a cool local rule we have here. And it's nice to know it because you can take advantage of that, so you do not have to putt or chip over it. Now, I'm going to give you another situation here. I'm going to use this box here as another sprinkler head. They're going to be sitting side by side. So I land right here, and the pin's here, and I want to go ahead and take relief from this spot. Okay? Which way do I have to take relief? Does it matter?
Not closer to the hole.
Not closer to the hole. Yup, correct.
Probably backwards.
Yes, you can go backwards, but if you go backwards, it's still in your way. Okay? So the hole slopes, for example, we're going to say the hole slopes this way. Okay? So my best putt would be if I move it over here, I got to kind of up the hill putt. So I would want to take it here. Personally, this would be easier for me. However, can I do it? No, you cannot. Because you have to take the nearest point of relief. Okay? And I'm going to explain this here in a second using a cart path. But my nearest point of relief would be this side. So I cannot say, I want to take it over here. So we're going to go ahead and drop it here because it's an easier putt. Can't do that. It's got to be your nearest point of relief. You're nearer here than you are to here. Okay? So you would have to take relief on this side, drop it from knee height, one club length, no closer to the hole. Okay? So now that I explained that, I want to explain if it lands on a cart path. A lot of times a golf ball will land on the cart path and there may be a hazard to the right of the cart path or some pine straw. Okay? Fairways on the other side maybe gives you a better angle, but you don't get to pick and choose on which side you drop on. It's very important to pay attention to which place is the nearest point of relief, okay? So let's say, for example, I hit it right there. It's on the right side of the cart path, okay? Where would I take relief?
Outside of the cart.
Which side?
Right side.
This is where I'm going to trick you, okay? The nearest point of relief is technically here. And the reason being is because you have to set up your stance when you take relief. So I have to fully take relief from the cart path. I can't be on the cart path and take relief. So when I take relief, I would have to say, here's my stance, there's my club head, lay it down. What's closer? This point here or this point here. Okay? It would be on this side. Okay? Because my club head is closer from here than it would be from here, because I have to take complete relief. I can't stand on the cart path. Okay? So just pay attention to that. Whenever you're trying to figure out which point is the nearest point of relief, grab a club, set up to it, and that'll deem where the closest point is. Okay? So club head's there, club head's here. It's much closer on that side than it is over here. Although it's on the right side of the path, that doesn't matter. Now, what if you're a left-handed golfer? Where's your nearest point of relief? This side. If I'm a left-handed golfer, the ball's right there. I have to take one club length. That would be my nearest point of relief, because I'm no longer standing on the cart path. And that is the point where we want to make. Okay?
What if there's rough on the one side that, you know, like.
Yes, if there's
like a
rough,
hazard area?
if there's rough,
Yeah, it's always. You can't.
yeah,
It's hard to hit.
right. Unfortunately, you're SOL on that one. Okay? Yeah, there's not much. That's the one part about this rule that makes it kind of difficult, is there are times where you have maybe tall grass that's just on the right side of the cart path, and that's your only point of relief. Now, you do have another option. You can play it as it lies. No one's saying you can't hit it off a golf cart path, especially if it's sandy, like sandy paths and not concrete. Now here they're all concrete, so you'd have to make that decision. Now if I'm out playing with some friends, I'm not going to damage my club over a round of golf. That's for fun. But if I'm in a tournament and I'm in first place and there's someone that's one stroke behind me, I'm hitting that off the cart path. Yeah, I definitely would. It'll scrape up your club pretty good, but believe it or not, it actually will come off the cart path very nicely. You'll actually create a little bit of spin if you hit it pretty good. So yes, you can do that. Any questions on that? Taking a relief from a cart path or from a sprinkler head. The cart path one is not a local rule. That rule exists everywhere. That's a United States Golf Association rule, so you can use that wherever. The local rule is the sprinkler heads. Okay, just so I clarify that. Yeah.
The USGA rules, do they change often, or, like, I have a book, a little book?
Yes.
And it's a few years old.
They don't change too often, to be honest. I think the last time they changed were about 3 years ago.
Okay.
19.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so maybe even longer than that. But yeah, they don't change too much. Every once in a while they come out with a couple, and I think in 19 they came out with like 3 or 4 different rules changes. But yeah, that's a good question.
And is there consideration of free relief if Finn sits right in front of where you're hitting?
Yeah, generally if you have a fin issue, just give us a call. And
He's sat right in front of us.
he'll sit right on the range. He gets nice and low right in front of you, and it's like,
He's ready to run.
yeah.
I was terrified I was gonna hit him.
Yeah, he did get hit. I've seen him get hit once, and he got hit in the leg. Not hard. The person, he was kind of off to the left, kind of like dribbled it and hit him, and so it wasn't really hard. But he doesn't care. He's just right there. He loves chasing those golf balls.
Something to consider.
Yeah.
Big relief.
Pin relief. It's a good local rule. All right, so what do you do when you don't know a ruling when you're mid-round? So if you're out there and sometimes you're playing against a competitor and you end up hitting a shot and there's a sprinkler head, or not, one of those irrigation box in front of you, and you feel like you're close enough where you might hit it, and they say, no, you're not going to hit that. So in that case, you might be forced to play two balls. You'd play the first ball exactly where it lies. If you happen to hit that box, then obviously it's an immediate indication that, okay, that was too close. You definitely should have got relief from that. But that's not always as easy as that. There's sometimes just rules that people just are unaware of. Where to drop, how to drop, can you drop, those sort of things. So anytime you run into those, play two balls. You play one as it lies, and then you play the second one with the ruling applied to it. Okay, and you would play both balls for the remainder of that hole. So whether you hit one all the way to the right, one all the way to the left, you're going back and forth, and you got to play both those, and you got to finish both of them out or get to your max net double bogey. So once you finish that hole, you'll write down those two scores and make sure you identify which score is which one was your first ball and which one was the second ball. You then have to make sure that you are playing by whatever, you have to deem which ball that you think is correct, okay? Which one that, so in that case, if you didn't hit the box, then that first ball would be the correct one, okay? When you come into the scoring table or you see the professional staff, you come grab us and you say, hey, we have a ruling question. This is what happened. We played two balls. Which score do I take? And then the professional staff will let you know, this was the ball you should have played. This is the score you're gonna get. No one incurs any other penalties at that point, okay? So anytime you don't know a rule, play two balls. Okay, that's the easiest way to kind of figure it out. Finish it out, and then from there you can figure out when you come to the shop which one's the correct one. Okay? I'm going to go through a little bit of some golf terminology that you may or may not know. So these are just a bunch of random ones I just kind of wrote down just to rattle off, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight on what kind of communication goes on out in the course. So I'm going to start with just some standard ones, not so much some slang ones. So you'll hear people say, I hit a draw, I hit a fade, slice, I took a big divot, I was in the sand trap with a bunker, I was in the waste bunker, I got an albatross. You'll hear people say bite or sit. And then you'll hear, I hit it in the cabbage, or I hit it in the spinach, or something like that. You hear all kinds of crazy stuff that people are always kind of changing the words to make different meanings. Just to clarify, so a draw, and I'll kind of ironically draw this on the board here. And this is from a right-handed golfer's perspective. So if you're left-handed, this does not apply to you, or it'd be the opposite, I should say. Okay, so we have a right-handed golfer here, standing on this side, okay? And you hit the ball, and the ball goes out to the right and comes back to the middle. That is a draw, okay? So it starts to the right, comes back to the middle. What is most common, which you see from most golfers, is a slice. The ball will slice to the right. Okay, so it starts straight, starts left, and just kind of slices off to the right. That is a slice. A smaller version of a slice is a fade. Okay, so it just kind of fades a little bit to the right as you hit it. The ones that go really far right, those are slices. Okay, so those are just a couple words that determine which way the ball flies. You hear of a divot. Some of you may not take divots, some of you may. A divot is basically just the mark that you leave in the ground when you hit the golf ball. So if you hit the golf ball and the turf goes flying, that's a divot, okay? We ask that you do replace those if they are full and solid, and then just put a little sand around the edge of them, okay? And then just make sure you step on them. A lot of times people will hit into one of those divots, and if you don't step on it or don't fill it, then your ball's sitting in that divot and you got to play it out of there. Okay, so it's good to replace divots whenever you're on the course for the etiquette of everyone else that's playing. Okay, bunkers and sand traps, same thing, no difference. We have 100-odd bunkers and sand traps out here. There is a difference between one specific bunker though, and that's called a waste bunker. Waste bunkers are bunkers that you're allowed to ground your club in. You can take a practice swing in a waste bunker. You can set your club in right behind the ball. Just be careful when you do set that club down behind the ball that you're not creating a divot to improve your lie, or shouldn't say a divot, but like a little hole there to create a better lie for you, okay? That you can't do. You can't improve your lie, but you are allowed to touch the sand behind the ball, okay? So you can rest your club down there, okay? So waste bunkers out here are usually deemed by any bunker that doesn't have a rake. It's typically not a bunker that's around the greens. Those are called greenside bunkers. It's usually a bunker that's out in the fairway. A good example of a waste bunker here is on number 7, all the way to the right. There's that big old bunker down that little hill there. That is a waste bunker. You can take practice swings in there. You can ground your club in there. No penalty incurred, okay? However, if you were to do that in a bunker that's not a waste bunker, that is a 1-stroke penalty. So you cannot take a practice swing in a greenside bunker. You cannot ground your club in a greenside bunker or a bunker that's not a waste bunker, okay? So it's important to identify when you're out playing, is this a waste bunker or is it not? If you're ever unsure, what should you do? Yes. Check with your playing competitors or your partners. Say, hey, I'm not sure if this is a waste bunker. What do you guys think? Yeah, we all think it's a waste bunker. We don't see any rakes. You're okay to take a practice swing or ground your club. Okay? So those are waste bunkers. Does anybody know what an albatross is? Yeah. Does anybody know what an eagle is? What about a birdie?
1 under par.
1 under par, right.
2 under par.
So you have, I'm going to kind of go down the list here. So we're going to use a par 4 as an example. So we'll use number 1. So hole 1 to par 4, which means you have 4 shots to get in the hole, okay? If you make a 6 on that hole, what is it called? Anybody know? Yes, double bogey, okay? So we have double bogey. What if you were to make a 5? Good. 5 is a bogey. 4 is obviously a par. 3 would be a birdie. What is 2? Eagle. Good. And what if I make a hole-in-one on a par 4? What's that called?
You're flying around.
Yeah, you're flying around.
Yes, absolutely. It is an albatross. So technically, albatross. So technically, how many strokes below par is the albatross? 3. Correct. Typically, you don't see that happen too often. We did have a couple members, I shouldn't say a couple, we had one member that I know of, got a hole-in-one on number 15, the par 4. He was playing from the silver tees, he got a hole-in-one, so we would consider that a hole-in-one or an albatross, okay? I've only had 1 albatross in my life, and that was at Bayside. There was a par 5 on the backside. I hit my tee shot, I hit my second shot, and my second shot went in the hole. So that's 3 under on a par 5, that's an albatross. You don't see them happen too often. Typically, they're on par 5s because, again, if you make it on a par 4, it's a hole-in-one because you're 3 under par. So generally, people are going to say, I made a hole-in-one, okay? So typically, you'll find that people will get an albatross on par 5s usually, okay? Can't get an albatross on a par 3. All right, any questions on that? Okay, so, yeah.
So you did draw, fade, and slice. Is there a fade left and a fade right?
We would call this, so this is a draw here, so they're a little bit smaller. This would be a hook. So you have hook, you have slice, you have draw, and then you have the fade. So the draw and the fade are a little bit smaller, okay? The slice and the hook are usually not good. You want to stay away from the slice and the hooks. You want the draws and the fades, all right? You'll hear people yell, they'll hit their golf ball, it's going towards the green, you'll hear people yell, bite, or sit. Generally, that means that they're trying to get the ball to actually sit and not hit on the green and release off the green. So if you hear people yelling at their golf ball, bite, that's what it means, okay? It means they want their golf ball to just bite and sit, okay? You'll hear people say, I hit it in the fescue, I hit it in the cabbage, or I hit it in the spinach. That's really tall, gnarly grass that you don't want to be in, okay? So those are a little bit more slang. Some other slang words you'll hear is shank, which I feel like most people are familiar with. That's one of the more common ones. A shank is basically when you go to hit a shot, you hit it off this part of your club, right here. Hit it off the hosel, it goes directly to the right. So if I'm hitting here, and I hit my shot and I see a golf ball go directly right, good chance you probably hit it off the hosel and you shanked it, okay? So if you hear someone say you shanked it, you know what that means now. Shanks are obviously no good. We wanna stay away from the shanks, okay? I don't even like saying the word out loud, okay? You'll hear someone say, I chunked it, or I duffed it, or I hit it, or I chili dipped it. It just means that you hit before the ball and you hit it heavy or fat or chunky, you know? Those are the words that you kind of use when you hit it right behind the golf ball, okay? You'll hear people say, oh man, I sculled it over the green. Sculling it usually means when you hit the golf ball that you did not get underneath it, so you hit it right here in the center of the golf ball with your blade and it goes flying over the green. I'm sure we've all done that, right? I know I have. So if you hear someone say I sculled it or I thinned it, that's what it means. Hit it really low, you hit it too far and it goes way over the green, or it stays really, really low to the ground, usually. So those are just some, and you'll hear a bunch of other terms and crazy things people will say. I feel like every year I hear some other word that's being reinvented into some random term. So yeah, those are a few. Now, I want to get into what etiquette means. Etiquette's very popular when it comes to golf, very important. It's kind of what we pride ourselves in when we play golf, having good etiquette. I'm going to read you a couple quotes I found or definitions of the word etiquette. So the first one, unwritten rules and practice designed to ensure a safe, enjoyable, and respectful experience for all golfers on the course, emphasizing courtesy, pace of play, and course maintenance. Okay, so that was one of them. The other one I have on the back here, which you guys have probably already read. The customary code of polite behavior in a society or among members of a particular profession or group. Okay, so that's the definition. Now, why is that important to golf? Because you should have etiquette when it comes to a lot of things in life, sports in general. It's being courteous, treating people fairly, taking care of the course, that sort of thing. So a show of respect to the environment and playing partners and competitors. Course etiquette versus player etiquette. Course etiquette is fixing your ball marks on the green. When your ball hits into the green, it leaves a little crater, okay? It's important to fix those. You want to fix those craters so that when someone else behind you gets to that hole and they're putting, they don't have to take the time to fix that. And when they putt, believe it or not, if you hit that mark, it will bounce, okay? So it is important to have the etiquette of fixing those ball marks on the greens, fixing your divots in the fairway. If you take a divot or a chunk out of the fairway and it's a big old piece of grass, grab that grass and go ahead and lay it back down in the hole, put a little sand on it and step on it a little bit so it flattens out nice and even. So if someone else hits a ball and it lands in that spot, they're not going to be stuck in a hole, okay? So those are a few things. Raking bunkers, okay? That's another one. I see a lot of people don't rake bunkers. Well, it's unfair to the people that are behind you because they don't get a chance to come up and rake that bunker, okay? So you want to make sure that you're taking the time to rake the bunker so that anyone behind you playing has a fair advantage to get it out of that bunker and they're not stuck in a footprint. Okay, that's the biggest thing. When you get in the bunker, people twist their feet in, create these craters, and then if you just walk away and you don't rake it, well, someone could hit it in there and it's almost impossible to get it out. Okay, so those are a few examples of course etiquette. Player etiquette. When you're out playing, if I'm putting, okay, and I'm trying to putt to that hole right there, when I'm getting ready to putt, as you're walking around looking at your putt and trying to read the green to find the line that you want to putt on, do not walk in front of someone because you're walking in their line, okay? So your footprint when you step where they're about to putt is going to make their ball bounce or bump. Now, one of the cool rules changes back in 2019, I believe, was that when there are spike marks on the greens, you're now allowed to fix those. So you can, generally what you'll do is you'll take your putter, usually it's the flattest club in your bag, and you'll just go ahead and you'll just fix that spike mark, okay? Now, there's not really any rules saying how many you can fix, but you don't want to be out there all day and tamping down your, your whole line, okay? So if you see that, you are allowed to do that, but again, be courteous of others that you're playing with and don't step in their line. Another one is when someone's trying to hit, we're not asking everybody to be, as like church mice, we want you to be able to have a conversation with people out there, but when you are having a conversation, just be mindful when someone gets up to address their ball. Just kind of pause for a second, let them hit. Don't be speaking or talking in their background. Generally, music doesn't affect people. Generally, music kind of keeps people in a good flow state. But there are some people out there who just do not like music, and they will ask you to turn it down or not play it at all. I play up in Philly quite a bit in section tournaments, and I always ask my playing competitors, hey, do you guys mind if I play some music pretty quietly in my cart? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, we do. We prefer you not play music. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I get it. I'm down at the beach. I like to party a little bit more. I like to have fun. Yeah, I like to have fun when I play. But I get it. It's competition. People are trying to focus. So I have to respect them and show good course etiquette and player etiquette and allow them to be focused when they're hitting their shot. So no issues there. I do understand that. Let's see here. Covered kind of the course care. Let's get into a little bit of equipment and apparel.
Let's go.
Okay. Yeah.
How long do you get to look for a ball?
Generally it's about 3 minutes. Most of the time you're not gonna find too many people being really uptight about the time unless you're someone who just will refuse to give up looking for your golf ball. Okay? A lot of times it's you want to keep it right around 3 minutes. Okay? Every once in a while, if you go a little over, not a big deal. Again, most of the time people aren't going to be real like, hey, I started it exactly when you got out of the cart, 3 minutes is up, you got to stop. Now, if they did that, technically you would, but generally you don't come across that too much. People are pretty fair about looking, and you should be as well. That's part of playing the game. You shouldn't take advantage of the rules and say, hey, I just started looking, I only got 2 minutes when really you've been looking for 5 or 6. Okay, so use the amount of time that you find is necessary, but yeah, you do want to keep it under a specific time frame, and usually 3 minutes is a pretty good one. So again, getting into equipment and apparel. Okay, so first thing I want to cover is, I'm going to give you a good example right here. So this is my bag with my clubs. I have a couple alignment rods in here, which are these orange things here and this wooden thing here. But everything else is what I generally carry in my bag. So if I went to play, if I go to play, I'm playing tomorrow. So if I go to play tomorrow and I run into a situation where someone walks over and they see my bag on the cart and they decide to count my clubs. How many clubs are you allowed to have in your bag when you play? 14, right? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I would actually get disqualified if I was playing. Now the reason I carry 15 in my bag right here is because I like to switch out this wedge or this one. So I generally take these everywhere I play, and then before I tee off, I'll take one out of my bag and I'll put it in the back of the cart, and I will let my playing competitors know that this club is out of play and I will not be using this club. I also can leave it in my car or anywhere. You don't want to have it in your bag. You want to remove it from your bag, make sure you only have 14 clubs in there, okay? Now it doesn't matter if you have 14 drivers, 14 putters, it doesn't matter. 14 clubs or less, okay? Let's see here, what else we got? What do you need to play golf? People who generally start out playing golf, they're not really sure. Some people think they need to have everything that a tour professional has, and then others just aren't really sure. When it comes to playing golf, you do need a set of clubs that are conforming to the rules and regulations of golf. You can't have a driver that's 60 inches long and you're hitting from way back here. There are specific rules that apply to the technology that you use. A good example, we were in the shop about a month or so ago, and we were getting ready to go down to Pinehurst to play in a pro-am. We were taking a handful of members down there, and I ordered all my new clubs through Ping. They have not come in yet, so this is all last year's stuff. But Will and Grayson, they have deals with TaylorMade, so they ordered some TaylorMade stuff. And we got some demo product in the shop. And every once in a while, we'll use the demo product, take it out. There's never been any issues. Well, TaylorMade decided to put a little mark on their driver this year that signified that that club was not a legal conforming club to use in competition. So Will and Grayson, when they were trying them out, their drivers didn't come in yet. They're like, well, we'll take these down to Pinehurst. Well, they found out before they went down, luckily, that they could not do that because they were not conforming to the correct rules and regulations for those golf clubs.
Yeah.
Exactly for that purpose. So you can't use a demo club out on the course. Yeah. Yeah.
But is
Yeah,
there really any difference in that?
Probably not. I doubt it. There might maybe something really small or particular, but I think it's more or less the mark signifying that you cannot use this in tournament play, basically forcing you to have to purchase the club, which I understand. I get it. I do. But yeah, that's just a small example of the equipment and rules that you need to abide by so that you are playing within the rules. So yeah, they ordered their drivers. They did come in time, so they were able to use those and take those down. But that's a good example because that's something new. We've never seen that before. That was the first year that a company's done that. Okay. So obviously you need realistically what you need is golf balls, because if you run out, you're in trouble. Okay, you gotta have enough golf balls to play. And as far as clubs, you could play with one club. You could play with three. It really doesn't matter. You just need a few clubs to go out and play with. I know there's plenty of ladies who have maybe 5 or 7 clubs, and that's perfectly fine. So you need golf balls and you need clubs. Really, that's pretty much it other than your apparel. You have to make sure that when you're playing here at the Peninsula, you have some sort of collared shirt or some sort of piece of apparel. Like in the wintertime, obviously, this is not a collared shirt, but I am allowed to wear this on the course. So we've gotten much more lenient, and the USGA's got much more lenient with allowing hoodies. Hoodies never used to be allowed on the course. Now, you can't come out wearing a big old Nike with a swoosh across the chest that you got from like the Nike outlet. Generally, anything you purchase out of the golf shop is going to be more or less allowed on the course. Now, I say more or less because not everything we sell in the golf shop you can wear on the course. We sell some t-shirts in there. A lot of companies started producing and selling graphic tees, athletic apparel type. You cannot wear those on the course, okay? If you're ever in doubt, go ahead and just ask the professional staff. We will let you know. Yes.
So there's an online company that a number of people order from, and they market a lot of the women's wear as golf/tennis. And when I look at some of them, I'm like, that is not what I understand lengthwise appropriate on the golf course. But if they're selling it that way, it's like, did they police that here?
You're talking about like the skirts and skirts usually, yeah. So tennis, they're always a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Always a lot shorter. I mean, it's kind of a tricky one with women. That as long as nothing's too revealing, I guess is kind of the way we do it. You know, obviously you don't want a really, really short skirt. But it's not like we're forcing everyone to have skirts or skirts past your knees either, you know? So it's more or less just use your best judgment. And if you're ever in doubt, check with the professional staff. We'll be more than happy to give you our professional opinion and say, it's kind of borderline. You know, we might have some people say a few things, and we've had plenty of people mention someone going down to the range in jeans. We don't allow jeans. So last class I did cover the dress code. So if you weren't here for last class, you can get the video or the handout for that dress code, and it'll kind of explain to you what you can and cannot wear. Joggers are actually something that were kind of frowned upon, but it's become a lot more popular. You actually see tour professionals wearing joggers on the course. I don't have them on today, but I did have mine on last class. Yes.
So I didn't ask you that question, I wanted to.
Yeah, and it's tricky because they look a lot like windbreakers or like rain pants.
Right.
You can wear rain pants, but windbreakers, not so much. You know, we're becoming like, I guess in general, everyone's gotten a lot more loose with what you can and cannot wear on the course, depending on where you're at. Now, if you go to Marion or Pine Valley or Oakmont, then there's a good chance that a lot of the things we wear here, you might not be able to wear there. I don't know if they will allow you to wear joggers at places like that. I do not know. But I know here we do allow you to do that. Again, we're at the beach. We're a little bit more laid back. We're not as stuffy as some other clubs, so you do have that kind of a little bit more looser with what you wear. So if you're ever in any question, just feel free and go ahead and ask us. With the windbreakers, you'll see the ones with the 3 stripes down the side. Kind of want to avoid stuff like that, okay? But again, we can help you out if you ever have any questions. Any other questions on apparel or equipment? You know, obviously you want to have tees, you want to have ball markers, you want to have that sort of thing, but it's not a necessity. I know plenty of people who don't even use tees. They drop their golf ball right on the tee box and they hit their driver, we call off the deck, so they don't even use a tee, they just hit it off the grass. So I do know people that do that as well. Any other questions on any of that?
As a beginner, is there a certain type of golf ball to look for? Or
Not
is it
necessarily.
personal preference?
Generally, if you ask anyone in a pro shop, if you go anywhere, they will give you their best advice on what you should play.
Okay.
Obviously, we know you guys a little bit member here because we are a private club. We do see you quite often. We know what you kind of purchase in the shop for the most part. But it's a lot of times based off your swing speed. So there's golf balls with different compression, or I should say, the makeup. There's a 5-layer ball, 3-layer ball, single layer ball, and it's just basically the makeup of the golf ball and how many cores there are to it. So there's like this outer layer. This is a Pro V. So there's an outer layer, there's another layer inside, then another layer, and then you got the core in the middle. So there's a few layers to it. Other balls like I'm trying to think, like a Top Flight. That's probably like a one-piece ball. So you have just the core and then the outside. And that's important to know because, again, your swing speed is going to determine how, you can carry a ball a lot farther. If I'll give you a good example. I played in a golf tournament back home in upstate New York where I'm from with one of my buddies. Golf's like 5 months out of the year up there. It's way upstate, 2 hours north of Syracuse. And it's nothing like here. When I moved down here for the first time in 2010, I saw these courses and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm at Augusta. Like these courses are unbelievable, right? I couldn't even break 100 when I first got down here. It was horrible. I worked really hard to get where I was at, but anyways, I moved up there, or I went up there to play in the golf tournament, and they are a lot. You can wear jeans up there. You can do whatever you want up there. It's kind of crazy. It's nothing like down here. So they had a long drive tournament, and I know I hit the ball pretty far. I got a pretty good swing, and I stepped up to hit my long drive, and they had a basket of golf balls, and they were all like just really beat up, rugged. I mean, they were essentially range balls. And I grabbed one and I teed it up, and I absolutely crushed it. I was like, man, I hit that thing so far. I was like, that's got to be like 320, 330. It was hit it a mile. The guy who's checking, he keeps walking forward and forward and forward and forward and forward. I'm like, where's he going? And then he radios to him. He goes, 281, and I'm like, there's no way. I was like, I know how far I hit a golf ball. There is no way that went 281. Well, it went 281 because the golf ball was not fit to my swing speed and not designed for my swing speed. So basically when your driver hits the ball, believe it or not, the ball actually smushes. I know you can't really see it, but if you watch a slow motion video, it actually like compresses and smushes and almost turns into an oval. Well, depending on your swing speed and how much force you have when you hit that, the compression of it's going to be either a lot or too much or too little in relation to your swing speed. So it's going to carry different distances. So I know I can hit a Pro V well over 300 yards when I hit it really good. But when I'm hitting, a top flight or something, it may not go that far because it's not designed for my club head speed. So that's a good question. Selecting a golf ball can be kind of important. Yeah, for sure.
So if you have a slow speed ball.
Yes.
What do you go for? Do you go for the top flight or?
You probably go with something that's a little, I wouldn't necessarily say a top flight, but something a little softer. Because your swing speed's a little slower.
Yeah.
So something that's a little softer is going to give you a little bit more compression. Think of it like a bouncy ball. Okay, so if you have something that's really soft like a bouncy ball, you're going to hit it really, really far. But it might be too soft for me to the point where it compresses too much and I don't get the maximum distance out of it. So yeah, so you probably, Callaway's Super Softs are generally what we recommend to most lady golfers, because typically your club head speed's not as fast and the golf ball's a little bit more softer, so it compresses a little bit more, especially in the winter time when the balls get really, really firm.
What would you describe the range balls as?
So they actually have, a lot of times range balls have a different makeup to them where, I wish I could remember this off the top of my head, but it's something like the ratio is like 120 to like 80 or something like that. So they're not designed like an actual golf ball is. It's a little bit different. So you can go to some courses and depending on the compression of that ball, it will not go nearly as far because their range is too small. So it's kind of harder to judge, how far that's going to go. But yeah, range balls are definitely, typically you do not want to use a range ball, not when you play.
No, I was just thinking if you're practicing there and you're like, oh, I can hit this club about this far, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
you go out with your real golf balls.
I think ours are very similar to like an actual ball, but I don't know the specific numbers on the compression.
But are they more geared towards a faster swing or medium?
No, they're more built for durability because you hit them so much. So we want the range balls to kind of last. We've actually found that we've hit actual real golf balls in the golf simulator before, and we hit them over and over again. We've actually cracked real golf balls and split them right in half using them in the golf simulator room because you're hitting them a lot like a range ball, and then you're hitting that screen over and over and over and over again. So that will put some good wear and tear on it, and it'll crack the golf ball. But range balls usually have a lot more durability to them. Okay. So any other questions on equipment or apparel?
I just wanted to make one comment. I learned this winter when I was in Florida.
Yeah.
I happen to have a large hand for a woman, but my fingers aren't as long as most men's.
Okay.
So when I buy a men's glove, because women's gloves don't come big enough for me,
Right.
the fingers are too long. And so
Cadet.
for anybody who's female with a bigger hand, they make cadet gloves.
Yes.
And I had never heard of that before,
Yeah.
and it's the sweet spot in between the men's and women's.
Yeah,
bigger
that's
hands.
very true. So a cadet glove is just shorter fingers.
Uh-huh.
So I don't want to say they don't. There probably is somewhere out there, but a lot of times you don't see too many cadet ladies gloves, but you see a lot of cadet men's gloves. Yeah, and there's no really difference between a ladies glove and a men's glove. Realistically, it's just sizing. Whatever glove fits your hand the best is typically what you go with. Now, obviously, ladies tend to have more vibrant styles, and like they got the mesh back, so it's a little bit more breathable, or different colors, that sort of thing. But for the most part, you want to find the glove that fits your hand the best. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some formats and tournaments. Just your basic golf formats that you'll typically come across. Stroke play is the first one. Stroke play is just you're playing your own ball all the way around, and you're keeping your own score. So you have your one ball, you play 18 holes or 9 holes, you finish every hole, or if you have to pick up, you record max net, double bogey, and then you have a score at the end of your 9 or 18 hole round. Match play is typically 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. In the same group, you're playing against each other head to head. The difference is, it doesn't matter how many strokes you hit. You're not keeping a total score at the end as far as your strokes are concerned. You're trying to win each hole. So you want to think about it as there's 18 possible holes out there that you could win a point on. You get a point for winning a hole, or it would be, we call it 1 up or 1 down. So if I'm playing against Will head to head, Will scores a birdie on the first hole and I'll make a par, he's 1 up. If he makes a birdie, I make a double, he's still 1 up. He beat me on that hole, so he's 1 up, okay? We go to the next hole and I happen to beat Will. We are now all square, back to even, so we're tied. We go to the third hole, I win the third hole, well then I go 1 up and Will's 1 down. So that's how match play works, and the same thing works with 2 people. If it's Will and I versus Grayson and Mike Shenad, and Will makes a 3 on the first hole and the rest of us makes 5, Will wins the hole for our team, Will and I are 1 up, okay? So that's kind of how it works. Whoever wins that hole with the lowest score essentially gets a point or goes 1 up, okay? So if you get to, if you get to like the 15th hole and you win the 15th hole and you go 3 up, well then you have 16, 17, and 18 to play and you're 3 up. That would be dormy, okay? That's the terminology used for that. So when you're dormy, that means that other team has 3 holes that they have to win in a row in order to come back and then tie and break even, okay? At which point sometimes you go into a playoff hole, or other times it just ends even, okay? So we do run some tournaments here where they are match play, and that's kind of how that works. It's a really fun format. It's honestly much more enjoyable than stroke play because you don't have to count every single shot. And a lot of times, if I hit it out of bounds and I re-tee and I hit it in the rough and I chunk it out of the rough, and I know that the person I'm playing against is on the green in 2, I'm just gonna say, hey, look, man, it's your hole. You won the hole. We don't, if you want to finish out, you can. I'm gonna pick up. Let's go ahead and go on to the next hole, right? So match play is really cool. I enjoy match play, and a lot of times when I play competitively, or anyone in the professional staff, we play competitively against each other. We always do match play for the most part. And then you have your team formats. There are a million team formats out there. Scramble, shamble, best ball, alternate shot. I'm not going to go through and explain all those different games, but for the ladies playing in the ladies league, you play a variety of different formats. So you will get familiar with playing different formats all the time. There's literally a million formats out there. But basically it's just team formats. You're playing against people in your group. Usually it's 2-on-2. And then you're playing with usually 2 sides. You'll have maybe, like, if you guys watch a lot of golf, we have the Ryder Cup, the President's Cup. You have 2 different teams, and those 2 teams are trying to get points in each match for their overall team, okay? So a lot of times that's what you'll see, all right? Difference between tournament play and exhibition. So when you play in tournaments, the biggest thing is you really want to make sure that you're turning in your scorecard, okay? You want to make sure your scorecard is correct before you turn it in. Exhibition play, it generally doesn't matter. You're out there having fun. You don't have to specifically abide by any rules if you don't want to. When the exhibition match, you just go out there, you enjoy yourself. Sometimes we'll say to our partners, hey, I'm gonna hit an extra shot. You care if I drop a ball? No, go ahead, drop a ball, hit another one. We're just out here having a good time. Sometimes during a lot of times in the winter, if you're playing, you might hit a ball and it's like, dude, there's a giant root right here. Like, I mean, you care if I move it? And sometimes people will be like, no, I don't care. Don't hurt yourself. Just move it out of the way. But tournament play, you have to abide by the rules. You have to, have an accurate scorecard, and you have to turn that in for a score at the end of your round. Okay? Yes.
If we're just playing around here on a Tuesday, what's the deal about recording your scores for your game? Do you
So
have to all the time?
no. If you just want to go out and have fun, you maybe want to play 2 balls on a couple holes, or you just want to play a scramble with some friends, or you're just going out there for fun. You're playing exhibition. Come to the golf shop and say, hey, I'm going to have a non-postable round today. Can you please check that off for me? The golf shop will then check off that your score was not a non-postable round because you were playing a team format, or you're playing 2 balls, or you're just out there practicing. The handicap committee will be on everybody to make sure, hey, I saw, Mr. McGillicuddy played 6 rounds last month and he didn't post 1 score. What gives? So then you'll get an email from them and say, hey, look, we really need you to post your scores for the fairness and accuracy of the handicap system here at the Peninsula. We actually we were top 3, or we might have been, no, we were the #1 ranked club in Delaware for most scores posted through the handicap system last year. Yeah, which is the job of our handicap committee and the job of you guys, making sure you're posting your scores when you finish playing. So that's awesome. But yeah, you don't always have to post your score. If you're going out and have fun, just make sure you check in with the golf shop so we mark off it's non-postable. That way it won't show up that you're posting that round for that day, and when the handicap committee runs the report, it'll show that.
So I would have gotten an email if somebody had looked at a discrepancy.
They're not gonna.
I was one of those who posted every single.
Yeah,
round.
they're not gonna give you a hard time if you don't post 1 or 2.
Okay.
I think they're looking for a certain percentage in accuracy to make sure that, if you're only posting 40% of your scores, they're gonna be like, hey, what gives? And then next thing you know, you're winning every tournament out here. They're gonna be like, all right, well, yeah, terminology, sandbagger. I don't know if any of you ever heard of that. But yes, that would be something along those lines where there are people who take advantage of the rules and they post higher scores than what they actually shoot, or they don't post their really good scores so their handicap stays higher. So when they play in events, they play much better than what they actually should. Yeah, so that does happen. So you will hear that word quite a bit. So you'll hear sandbagger. That's not a good thing. Now, if you hear reverse bagger, that's the opposite. So a reverse bagger would be you shoot 80 and you post 74. And it's like, oh, well, then when you go play with people, they don't want to play with you because you play so much worse. Yeah, it may look good. You may look like you're a 3 handicap, but in reality, if you go out and play and you're shooting 80 and you're a 3 handicap, people are like, dude, what gives? You know what? You want to keep an accurate score, and you want to make sure you post the accurate scores to make sure that your handicap is as close to your playing ability as possible. You will have times where you play people, and I know some of my friends who are 5-6 handicaps, and they go out and they'll play and they'll shoot even par. And it's like, whoa, like that dude's not 5 or 6 handicap. Yeah, he could be. I actually saw a statistic not too long ago it was kind of mind-boggling. It was, the lowest score I've ever shot is 63, and I've only shot that once. The second highest score I think I shot was maybe like 64, and I've shot a 65, 67, but they have all been only once. It's not like I've shot 63 a million times or 64 a million times. It happens once in a blue moon. So there was a percentage out there that showed, like, based off from your handicap, you may shoot your best score ever once or twice in like 3 years, So it does play. There are, factors that play there percentage-wise that kind of will let you know. If you see someone shooting below their handicap every single time they play, then that's probably someone who's a sandbagger that's taking advantage of the handicap system. Yes?
So let me ask you, so I don't play very often, so my handicap is really high.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a really good game, my best game,
Yeah.
and instead of my handicap going down, it went up. And I went, wow, how'd that happen?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
I wasn't sure that was the word I used.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, how did that happen like that, so I.
Yeah, the handicap system kind of moves, and it depends, like, they did institute like a new, I guess, like kind of regulation or whatever, if everyone goes out and plays tomorrow and everyone shoots like 6 or more over their handicap, there are like stipulations in it that'll say, like, I won't say it, but it's basically the course conditions were so tough that day, it was maybe extremely windy or rainy, so there will be an adjustment that kind of helps to kind of balance that out a little bit, because not everybody should shoot over their handicap by that much in one day unless there's something that's causing that, and generally it's weather. Yeah. So getting into tournaments, one of the things I really want to make sure that you are aware of and you're doing is when you finish your round, we use Golf Genius to keep the automated scoring going, like on the Golf Genius software, which I'll get into next class. But you have a hard copy as well. So generally what you want to do is you want someone in your group to keep the Golf Genius, the GGID on their phone, and then someone else in the other cart that you're playing with keep an actual handwritten scorecard, so that when you finish your round, whoever has the GGID will pull up the scorecard, you'll take the hard copy from the other cart, and one person will read the scores and you'll follow along to make sure both scores add up, so that when you finish your round, you have an accurate scorecard, okay? That is very important. Jordan Spieth, a few years ago, he was out playing, I think he was in a twosome maybe, and he was out playing, and him and his partner were just playing. They got to like hole 15 or something, and neither of them wrote down their scores. So they went through real quick on the 15th hole or whatever, and they wrote down all their scores, you know, what they thought for their, because you switch scorecards, so you're not keeping your own score. You always switch, okay? So they're keeping each other's scorecards, so they wrote down their scores. They finished playing 18 holes. They went into the clubhouse. They signed off on their scorecards, handed them in, and walked away. Well, at that point, they're finalized. You signed off on them. Jordan Spieth got disqualified because he signed for an incorrect scorecard. So he probably lost out on maybe a few $100,000 just because he didn't pay attention to that score. So that could happen here. Obviously, we're not playing for that much money, but we, at times we do play for some, and you want to make sure that your score is accurate when you hand it in. Now, we're not as tight as the USGA is with professional tournaments. A lot of times if you catch it in time and we see it, we'll go ahead and make the adjustment. But usually if you go home, you go to sleep, you wake up next day and you notice it, not much we can do about it at that point. We actually had that happen to a member here in our member guest one year. He thought he signed for the correct scorecard. He signed for higher than what he shot, so he wasn't disqualified, but he signed for an incorrect scorecard, which was more strokes. So when you show up the next day, he's like, what gives? Why did that's not what I shot. And said, well, that's what you signed for, that's what you turned in. There's nothing we can do about it at this point. You went home and you didn't let us know. So it's important to make sure that you use the Golf Genius GGID and you use the handwritten scorecard to kind of compare when you're finished your round. So when you turn in the scorecard, make sure that you turn in. Now we use the GGID as our official scorecard here, but a lot of times that hard copy is what the PGA Tour uses. They don't use GGID or Golf Genius. They use that hard copy and they physically go turn it into the score table. So I recommend that when you're finished your round, you at least go to the scoring table or wherever the TV is that we use here for our GGID, and you take a look to make sure your score is accurate. Because there are times where maybe we inputted them and we inputted them wrong. That can happen. Now at that point we would make the adjustment because that's our error. But you never know what can occur. So it's always making sure you're checking off on both scorecards to make sure that everything's accurate. Go to the score table, make sure your scores add up once you've finished your round. If there's any discrepancies, come see us right away, and we'll go ahead and make those adjustments. Any questions on any of that? Yeah.
For getting a handicap, it starts April 1st.
Yes.
And what do we do? Like if I go play somewhere else, what do I do with that information?
So I'll cover this a little bit more next class, but it's in, you have, pull it up here so you can see it. You have the GIN handicap system, so it's gonna say USGA GIN handicap.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be this blue app right here, I really can't pull it up, but it's that blue app right there.
I wanted to ask you about that.
I think that's the same thing, yep. Mine might not be updated or a little different, but it's that USGA GIN handicap right there. It's that blue one right there in the middle. So you basically click that, and you can go ahead and post your score right on there.
So so we don't need to bring in the scorecard or anything?
No,
like
anytime
that?
you
That's
play,
fine.
anytime you play on your own,
Yeah,
you have to post your score.
okay,
Okay, anytime that you play in a tournament here or a designated tournament that's hosted by the Delaware State Golf Association, or any other, if you're, in another section, they will generally post those for you, and you can always ask if you're unsure. Just go to whoever's hosting the event and just say, hey, are we posting these or are you guys posting them?
So if we're not, quote, in season here, but you go to Florida for the winter and they are in season, don't you
You
have
post.
to post those scores?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes, that is correct.
But in order, for those of us who don't have a handicap, when we have from like April 1st to start doing it, we only can post rounds from here for our handicap?
So, wait, say that again, sorry.
So basically I'm asking, can we only the rounds we play at the peninsula?
No, any rounds you play, I would, if this time of the year, if you're trying to establish a handicap, what I would recommend is save your scorecards, and then when posting season starts, we can punch those in for you to get you an established handicap. Okay? So if you are, so it's not like it's, what, for players who are new that don't have a handicap, we want to try to get you a handicap established. Okay, for people who already have a handicap and have for a while, then no, you can't post during it's not like you can save all your rounds during January and then April 1st starts and you go ahead and post all those. No, but for people who are trying to establish a handicap, we'll try to do our best to get those in there so that you can play in the league. When does the league start for the ladies? April? Okay, so you do have, some time in there. Yeah, you have, and we're almost in April, so it's not like you have all these scorecards saved up that you can just flood in.
It's not just Peninsula Golf Course though, we can
No,
go. play at
any course you
Baylor.
play, anytime you play a legitimate round of golf at any course, you definitely want to post those scores. Yeah, it's not just the peninsula. You can pull up, and again, next class I'll get a little bit more into this, but you can pull up on the app basically any course in the country.
Yeah.
There's if it's a USGA recognized golf facility, they will have that course on the app so that you can punch that in. And if it's not, I think you can still use course and slope rating and find those tees and enter it manually and post that.
and it's 2 over par,
What's that?
if for your score, if something's a par 4,
Uh-huh.
and you're still hitting, do you put in the 8
It's-
or the 10?
Yeah, I'll cover this because this can kind of get a little confusing,
Only
but
because I'm playing tomorrow.
it's you pick up at max net double bogey. Okay, so we went over what a double bogey is, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so basically par 4.
yep,
This is a double bogey.
Yep.
You have to have a net double bogey. So when I say net, you have to include your handicap. So if you're an 18 handicap and you get 18 strokes, that's 1 stroke on each hole. So,
we don't have it.
well, if you don't have a handicap, then you're gonna play out until you establish a
Okay,
handicap.
that's my
For the most part, if you get to like 10 or 12, at that point you could probably pick up somewhere around there.
Okay.
But yeah, so net double bogey would be, if you have 1 stroke on each hole, it would be a 7. Because you're gonna add 1 stroke because that's your net. Okay, so you have par, you made your double bogey, now add in your net. Your net would be 1 stroke on each hole. So 1 stroke on par 4 would be 1 more, so that'd be 7. Okay? always confuses people, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Always confuses
I have a
people.
chart.
Yeah, there's if you have the chart, I know the ladies league has a chart that they use. But yeah, it's basically when you hear the word net, just add however many dots you have on each hole. And the dots are the strokes. Okay? So again, if you're an 18 handicap, you get 1 stroke on each hole because there's 18 holes. Okay? So those strokes or dots are your net. Okay? So you have par, okay? And then you're on your 7th stroke, okay? So that would be net double bogey because you have 1 stroke. Now, if you got 2 strokes on that hole, you would add 2, so it would be 8. Essentially, you play your ball and you just add the strokes you get on that hole. Okay, so if it's a par 4, double bogey is always 2 over par. Always 2 over par. If it's a par 5 and you make a double, just a double, not a net, just a double, what would that be? 7, right. If you get 2 strokes on that hole because of your net, what would the score be? 9, exactly, yeah. That's the best way to look at it. Yep. So, any other questions on that? And again, I'm going to get a little bit more into this next
When do you
class.
stop, or what do you put down?
Well, because
Yeah.
I don't have a handicap,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
that's why I stopped.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you guys for coming. And again, class next week is going to be from 1 to 2. Okay? So if you're going to be here in person, awesome. If not, we can shoot you the video. All right?
Can we get the video to some of that?
Yeah, we can still send it to you.
Just,
When we can get it.
can I ask 2 quick questions?
Yeah.
What about, okay, deer, geese, and eagles on the golf course that you don't wanna hit when you're hitting? What do you do?
I'd be impressed if you did hit them.
Why do we have fin?
Well, I would be impressed too, but there's some of us who might be able to. Like
Yeah.
Liz.
You'll be surprised. I've hit plenty of golf balls right at animals, and they move every time.
Okay.
I mean, very rarely do I ever see people hit. Very once in a while, you may hit a bird. I've only seen someone hit a deer once. It's extremely hard to do. The animals they're pretty agile. They'll make sure. So.
And what do you do if you're playing and the group behind you shoots a ball right into the middle of where you're playing?
That happened through yesterday.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. Well, generally you don't want to hit it back at them.
Right in the water.
Yeah, honestly, it shouldn't. I've hit into people a couple times. Sometimes you depth perception. Maybe you misshoot a rangefinder or something. It does happen. Where you want to what you kind of want to avoid is that kind of reoccurring. You don't want that to happen over and over and over again because then they're just intentionally doing it. If it's an accident, and sometimes it is. Sometimes people hit a ball and they're like, oh my God, I've never hit a ball that far in my life. Generally, they'll come up and they'll apologize. If they don't apologize and it happens again, well, then they're doing it intentionally, and that's an issue. Okay? So just let us know. But yeah, I don't recommend hitting it back at someone.
I would not. Hit them anyway.
All right. Okay. Thanks again.
Can I just ask,
Yeah.